when you adapt to the weirdness that is your life at this point, how normalcy suddenly starts to feel odd itself. So that's kind of where I am right now. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of myofascial release today. We're gonna do a little test retest. This is kind of a fun little thing that I do with people that I work with one-on-one to see what's actually making a difference in the tissues. I think that that's a really important thing. And I think anytime in our yoga practice or in our physical fitness, when we're able to really see the difference that something is making, it makes it more likely that we're actually going to come back and keep doing it, because we get that validation of our efforts, right? It's those things that we do in our life that are like, I'm setting aside time for this thing, and I don't know if it's actually helping me, that those things start to fall away. So anytime we can just kind of look at what is this really doing for me, are my efforts well spent, I think is really helpful. So we're gonna do a little test retest. And what you're gonna need for practice today is a block and 2 myofascial balls. I think, you know, blanket nearby is always helpful, just if you want something under your head, but it's not necessary today. Cool. All right. So the task part of this, we're going to start with that. So if you're drinking your coffee, that's fine. You can just have it close to where we're going to do this. You might want to have your block. We're just going to come into a forward bend. Let me show you first, just so you can see what I'm doing, and then you don't have to look at me and pay attention to what it feels like in your body at the same time. But I'm just going to have you come into a forward bend, widen out your feet, turn your toes slightly out, like 10 and 2. And then just start to sink your hips down and come right back up. So we're not pushing the range of motion. I just want you to see how far you can easily, comfortably go, and notice how that feels. And then I'm gonna have you come down into a squat. This is where your block might be helpful. You're not gonna push anything. You're not gonna like try to pry your legs apart like opening a clam. You're just going to sit here for a moment and see how it feels, because we're gonna retest this at the end. So we're not going for like gold medal and squat range of motion right now. I just want you to move a little bit, see how it feels, sit for a moment, see how it feels, and then we're gonna come right back up onto our back and get rolling, okay? Literally, get rolling with the 2 balls. So come to the top of your mat there as you're ready. If you still wanna take another sip, that's fine. Have your block handy. Come to the top of your mat or somewhere in the middle of your mat, and just come into a forward bend to start. And if you want something under your hands, or you want to be close to a wall to have your hands up a little bit higher, that's fine. Give your knees a nice generous bend there. Maybe bounce a little bit in your legs, drop your head, let your hair just kind of drop towards the floor. And then slowly start to heel toe your feet out a little bit. Turn your feet out a little, so your second and third toes are kind of like, maybe not 10 and 2, maybe more like, what is that, 11 and 1? So just a little bit there. And then with your hands on something, just start to bend your knees, sink your hips back, and just come as low as you comfortably can. Come to that first point of resistance, and then just straighten your legs right back up. And then do that like 2 or 3 more times. Bend your knees, sink your hips back, maybe lift your chest, maybe look up, and then straighten out your legs again. If it snaps and pops and Rice Krispies, just let it be. Don't worry too much about that right now. Just sink your hips and then push back up. And then for this next one, come down, and you don't have to come all the way into Malasana if that's not working for you today. Come down to where you start to feel the tension around your hips. I just want you to notice where that tension is. We don't need to fix it right now. And that might mean you're not low enough to really relax your legs for a moment. You need to put the block under you. And then if you can bring your hands up or your elbows up to your arms, whether you're to your legs, whether you're on your block or not. And we're not pushing anything out. I just want you to take a moment there, close your eyes, and notice where you feel the tension. Notice where you feel maybe some pulling, or maybe some tightness, or maybe just some weirdness, whatever it is that you feel. Maybe you feel a little lopsided. And then just kind of take it in, kind of creating this sensory imprint. Maybe start to straighten your legs up a little bit. Maybe bend your legs one more time, and then just take a moment there to just notice what you feel. And then after you've got that, bring your block with you, come onto your back. And just take a moment there to settle on your back in some position. You can have your knees bent, you can have your legs extended. And then just take about 3 to 5 nice full breaths in and out, just to let your body land on the mat. Let's take a moment to kind of arrive here. Nice. And then bend your knees if they're not already. Put your feet on the floor. Grab your 2 myofascial balls. We're going to do a little bit of work here. We're going to be retesting that squat at the end. So we're going to hit a couple of the really, the big sticking points for people in the squat all at one time. So, or not at one time, all in a consecutive order, all in one session. So you're going to take the 2 blocks. You're going to put them both in your right hand, right up against each other. We're going to start with the T-spine, thoracic spine. You're going to roll towards the left side like you're coming into a supine twist. Put the balls right up against the right side of your spine. The one ball is probably right about at chest strap level, maybe just below, and then the other ball is just above it. Both balls are on the right side of your spine, right up against your spine. And then once you get them into position there, you're going to kind of roll back up so your hips and shoulders are facing the ceiling again, knees are bent, feet flat on the floor. And then just wiggle around a little bit there so you kind of feel the balls are right up against your spine. Once you've kind of got them into that position, take your right hand and grab onto the left side of your rib cage. So underneath, right about chest strap level on the right side of your ribs, the left side of your ribs, sorry. And then your left hand is going to grab onto your right shoulder. And as you do this, your right hand is going to do most of the work. So as you inhale, your right hand is going to lift the left side of your ribs up, roll the weight of your body onto the balls. And then as you exhale, you're going to roll right back off. And then inhale, lift the left side of your rib cage up with your right hand. And then exhale, release, let the left side of your ribs come back to the floor. 3 more times. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale to lower. And then 1 more time in this spot. Inhale, lift. Feel the left side of your ribs lifting. Head stays on the floor and is nice and relaxed. And then exhale, release that. And then move the balls up just a little bit. Same side. Nothing about that is changing. Right up against your spine there. This may be more or less tender. And then put your hands back where they were. Right hand to left side ribs. Left hand to right shoulder. Take an inhale, lean into the balls there. And then exhale, lower. Inhale, lift the left side of your ribs. Roll onto the balls. Exhale to release that. Head is again on the floor or on your block if the floor seems too far away. Inhale to lift the left side of your ribs. Exhale to lower. Last one like that. Inhale to lift. And exhale to lower. Nice. And then take the balls out from underneath the right side. Come onto your back and be as still as you can. And then take a nice long, slow inhale in. When you get to the top of the inhale, pause. And then exhale, nice and slow, gentle exhale. And then as you do that again, just notice how it feels different from side to side on your rib cage. Notice if as you take that nice long inhale and then hold at the top, does it feel like one side of your ribs is a little more expanded or a little fuller than the other? And then take that nice long exhalation. And then do that again. Notice as you inhale, does one side feel like it's expanding a little bit more? Pause at the top. Notice that difference in size. Maybe one side of your ribs feels bigger than the other. And then exhale. Nice. Grab the 2 myofascial balls, bend your knees, feet to the floor. We're going to do the other side. Both balls are in your left hand. Roll towards the right side. Take the balls, one at chest strap level or just below, and the other just above that. The balls are right up against each other and right up against your spine. And then once you get that, you're going to come back to where you started here, and then just wiggle a little bit there so that you feel the balls are right up against the spine on the left side of your spine. Left hand comes to the right side of your ribs, and then your right hand is just draping over your left shoulder. As you inhale, pick the right side of your ribs up with your left hand. Try to use your arm. And then as you exhale, release the right side of your ribs to the floor. Inhale to lift. Feel like you're breathing into that space where the balls are pressing on the rib cage. And then exhale to slowly release. 3 more times. Inhale to lift. Send your breath into that space where the balls are pressing. And then exhale to slowly release off the balls. 2 more times in this spot. Take an inhale, roll onto the balls, and then exhale to roll off. Last one here, nice full breath in. Breathe into that space where the pressure is being applied to your ribs, and then exhale to roll off. And then take the balls and move them up just slightly, still up against the left side of your ribs, or left side of your spine. And then put your hands back where they were, left hand to right side ribs, right hand to left shoulder. 4 breaths here. Big breath in as you lean into the balls. Use the left arm there to lift your right side ribs, and then exhale to release. Inhale to lift. Breath into the back of the ribs there, and then exhale to lower. 2 more times. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. This is your last one here. Inhale to lift. And exhale to lower. And then come off the balls. Move them to the side there. Come onto your back. Take a nice long, slow inhale in. Pause at the top. Notice the fullness of your ribs there. And then nice, long, slow exhalation. Do that again. Nice, long, slow inhale. Notice if the 2 sides of your ribs are expanding evenly. Pause at the top. Take a moment to notice the spaciousness in the front of your chest. And then exhale your breath. Nice. Bend your knees again. Grab onto your 2 myofascial balls. You're gonna press down into your feet, lift your hips up, and take the balls and put them right on the back of your hips there. So kind of right where the block would be in supported bridge. So you're on the back of your pelvis. And then if you take the 2 balls and put them together on the back of your pelvis, it'll feel like you're on a bony plate. And you are. That's your sacrum. That's the bottom of your spine, which is kind of attached to your pelvis. Really forms this connection, this relationship between your spine and your hips. So right here on the sacrum, it's going to feel like you're pretty close to the bone because really all that's covering this is some connective tissue. So when you come into that position, it might feel a little bit tender. Keep your hips heavy and just start to rock your hips from side to side. And you can start to work up a little bit. You can start to work down a little bit. But just try to stay on that sensation of the bone. So you're staying close to the sacrum here and not really wandering too far off. There's a lot of nerves that pass through here. The very end of your spinal cord terminates at the sacrum and sort of branches out over the top of the bone into your legs. So there's a lot of different nerve signals here. And the nerves themselves can get trapped in this connective tissue. So here we're just kind of facilitating a little bit of movement, kind of changing the pressure gradient around those nerves, which can change the signals to and from your legs, which is really important if you're experiencing pain anywhere around the hips or into the legs. And then pause where you are, lift your hips up slightly, take the balls where you started there and just move them about an inch or 2 away from each other, and then set your hips back down and again start to rock. And once you do that, you're going to feel like you're maybe in more of the muscle, almost like there's a little bit of a depression there away from the bone and into the tissue. This is the connection of your gluteus maximus, your big glute muscles. And these guys here have a tendency to get kind of grippy and clenchy, especially if you kind of wing your legs out to the side here. You're a yoga practitioner that likes external rotation. There's a lot of different reasons, but these rotators here can kind of compress the SI joints because they connect there. So here, just a little bit of stimulation and circulation, and the balls will kind of wander away and you'll have to kind of corral them back. It's part of the fun. Just go with it. Just kind of wiggle around there, putting a little bit of pressure into the connective tissues. Good. And then bring the balls 1 in each hand and imagine the center of each of your butt cheeks as a bullseye. And I want you to put the balls right in the center of those bullseyes. So kind of right in the center of what feels like the center of that tissue. And then once you get into that position, set your hips down and make sure it kind of feels fairly even. We don't have to be super picky here. And then right ankle crosses over your left thigh. Then you're going to lean a little bit to the left so that you can take the ball that's on the right side and move it an inch to the right, so to the outside, and then an inch down towards your thigh. Once you get the ball moved from the center of the bullseye to the bottom corner of the bullseye, then you're going to lean the weight of your body over onto the right side ball. So the left side, probably just touching it, but not really any pressure. And then once you get there, you're going to kind of circle around in that bottom corner of your right side glutes until you feel what feels very different. It kind of stands out when you get there. And if you're not finding it, try to relax your right leg a little bit, lean a little bit more of your weight into that ball on the right side, and then take teeny tiny little circles in that bottom right corner of the bullseye. And for most of us, this one becomes pretty obvious when you're on it. These are your external rotators. There's 6 little muscles in there that really facilitate that action of external rotation. And just also being aware that this is also the area where your sciatic nerve lives. So if you're feeling anything radiating down your leg, just take a little of the pressure off or move a little bit off of that one spot that you're on. We don't want to keep pinging the sciatic nerve. So just, if you're feeling that radiation, just know that you don't have to stick with that. It's not supposed to hurt, but it will probably be pretty tender. We all practice yoga and warrior 2 and extended side angle and triangle. A lot of those are those externally rotated positions with the hip. So we're pretty good at external rotation, which means we probably have pretty strong rotators, right? But they also then can get a little bit tight depending on how we sit throughout the day. Just take another breath in there. And then as you exhale, kind of feel your hips softening over the surface of the ball. I'm going to take one more big breath in. And exhale. Nice. And then come back up to the center. Uncross your legs, put both balls right back in the center of both of the bullseyes. And then let's do the other side. So cross your left ankle over your right thigh. Lean towards the right slightly. Take the ball on the left side, move it an inch to the left, and then an inch down. So you're kind of in the bottom left corner of the left side glute. And then once you get into position there, take the weight of your body and lean your left hip onto the left ball, the ball there on the left side. And then try to relax your hip a little bit. If you're really clenching your external rotators, it's going to be harder to feel them kind of sinking into the surface of the ball there. But just start to take little circles until you find that strip of tissue that feels a little tender, and it usually stands out something different sensation than the tissue around it. And again, nothing should feel like it's shooting through your leg or any, kind of sharp pains there. See if you can relax your left hip as you lean into that pressure, into that tender spot. And then you just take a couple moments there. You can keep moving a little bit if it's very tender to find something that you can work with rather than just inflicting pain on yourself there. And then just see if you can relax your left hip as you're just kind of exhaling and letting the hip soften over the ball. See if you can even soften your left foot, your left toes, maybe ease up on that kind of ankle hold there and just kind of soften the ankle. And then if that spot that you're on, kind of the tenderness subsides a little bit, maybe just move a millimeter to the side and maybe there's another tender spot right there. Usually there's a couple. And then take a breath in. Breath out. Feel your left hip softening. And then one more inhale there. And exhale. Nice. Uncross your leg, come back to the center, take the balls out from underneath you and just extend your legs out. And just take a moment there to notice the sensations in your body. Notice the sensations underneath the skin. Maybe starting to sense some of that nerve feedback. Maybe your legs feel a little bit more alive. Kind of changing some of that communication through the legs. Maybe you feel a little bit more attached to your legs, like they're a part of you again. Take a breath in and a breath out. Nice. Roll up to your right side. We're going to do a little bit of work on the adductors here on the inner thighs. Grab your block. Have it set up on the second highest height. And then you want the block to be about at hip level. So about at the widest part of your hips there. You're gonna set the block up right in front of you. And then you're gonna put the ball on top of the block. And then the inner part of your thigh here, right above the bony part of your knee where your inseam is of your left leg, you're gonna put that right on top of the ball. And then you might need to kind of just position how close the ball or the block are to your body. And when you get there, you're gonna lean a little bit of your weight forward towards the floor so that the weight of your leg is actually resting on top of the ball. This might be a little bit tender. You might just stay where you are. If you're feeling up to it, you could bend and straighten your leg a little bit and try to glide some of those tissue layers over each other. Again, it doesn't have to be fully straightening out your leg and fully bending your knee, just sort of a little bit of movement there, a little bit of the swinging action, just to kind of feel those muscle layers, kind of those connective layers gliding over each other. And you get to customize how much weight you're putting forward by how much you kind of lean forward and rest your leg on the ball. So if this is a little bit too much, you can just sort of back your left shoulder and your left hip up a little bit and take some of the weight off. We're not just here to remind our bodies of pain. We are actually trying to restore function and resilience to the tissues. So gentler is sometimes better. And then move the ball up a little bit. So you're about a third of the way up your thigh. And then same thing, you can stay where you are. Maybe just prop your foot up there. Maybe lean a little bit more forward for a little more pressure. And just start to bend and straighten the leg. The inner thighs are an interesting one for outer hip pain. A lot of times we tend to focus on the outer hip, but sometimes the irritation of the outer hip is actually coming from the inner thighs being a little bit tight. It's kind of pulling the hip joint inward, which is pushing pressure on the outer part of the hip. Good, and then pause there and then take the ball up about a half of the way up your thigh. And for this one, you might need to bring your chest a little bit closer to the floor to get some weight into it. And then again, you can stay where you are or you can bend and straighten your leg. And you can be a little more fluid with the bend and straighten. It doesn't have to be super robotic. Doesn't have to be full range of motion. Just a little bit of movement there. Nice. And then come off of that, roll onto your back, and just be as still as you can. You're gonna feel a little lopsided here. Don't try to fix it. Just let it be where it is. Take a moment to take a snapshot of the right side versus the left side. Notice what feels different. And then let's do the other side. I'm gonna come up and flip so I'm not with my back to you. So now you're on your left side. Block is at about hip level or the widest part of your hip level. And then you're gonna take the ball, put it on top of the block, and then just above your knee, so just to the inner thigh there, you're gonna find a little bit of pressure as you lean slightly forward if you like, and then you can bend and straighten or you can stay still. It's a little bit of a balancing act there. It's a little bit of movement if you like, or you can stay still and just sort of lean forward. And here in the adductors and the inner thighs, we're kind of at this intersection. There are muscles between the inner quadriceps and the inner hamstrings. So you might be getting a little bit of all of that, which is fine. The adductors are actually not very long muscles, but they're very broad. So the adductors connect to the whole inner thigh in like a fan shape from the front of your hip to your adductors. So we're just kind of working our way up there, and then move the ball up about a third of the way up your thigh. And again, you can bend and straighten, or you can just be still. And then customize the amount of pressure by how much you lean kind of the right side of your body forward. And we're just looking for a little bit of movement there, a little bit of this resilience boosting quality of that pressure and the movement. And then halfway up the thigh. And this one, again, you might need to lean a little more towards the floor, but you can customize that. Nothing should feel really sharp or painful here, so just kind of tighter the intensity. Because if you are reminding your body of pain, it's going to clench, it's going to tense, and you're not going to get that fluid range of motion there in the inner thighs. Good. And then come off of that, come onto your back. Again, just be as still as you can there. Notice if you've been able to kind of equalize the sensation or the changes or the feeling of the two sides of your body. And if they're not perfectly symmetrical, that's fine. We use the two sides of our body very differently. So they may always feel a little bit different, and that's okay. Take a breath in and a breath out. All right, one more thing here. We're gonna do the outer shins, outer calves, and then we're gonna retest. All right, so you're gonna need one ball, because we're gonna do one side at a time. We're only gonna take about 30 seconds per side. So come into table pose. We'll do the right side first. If you lean back here like you're coming towards hero's pose, lift your right knee up and put the ball just to the right side of your shin below the bony part of your knee. So my shin is right here, my knee is right here. I'm just kind of in this top upper corner of my outer calf. And then I'm gonna come back towards table pose and lean my hips to the right, and then just start to move my right leg up and down. So I'm just on the right side of my shin, just below my knee, in that kind of fleshy mound of tissue there. And if you find something that feels tender, you might lean back towards hero's pose again. That's gonna put some more weight in the ball. If it feels very tender, you can stay up a little bit more towards table. If your wrists are feeling it, just take them a little bit farther forward. And just sort of move around there a little bit in that outer quadrant of your upper calf there, right alongside the shin. Just if you're not feeling much there, maybe lean your hips a little bit more to the right, just so you're kind of angling into that tissue. But for most of us, it's pretty easy to find this stuff. This tissue, if you ever twisted your ankle, is really important for recovery, because these are your lateral stabilizers for your ankle. So congestion here can really lock up your ankles. Now let's do the same thing on the other side. So come back into table. The ball's gonna go to the left side of your left shin, just below your knee, starting there. And then come back into table, or you can lean back to put a little more pressure in, but then kick your hips a little bit to the left. So you're kind of leaning towards almost the side of your calf there, and then start to move around on that left shin. Again, you can lean back for more pressure, come forward for less pressure. If your wrists are not enjoying the pressure, you can take your hands farther forward, and that'll kind of cut the angle a little bit there on the wrists. Just kind of moving around anywhere that feels tender out there. This lock up of your ankle can keep you from squatting well as well. So ankle mobility and hip mobility are really critical. Good. And then come off of that. You can take your block with you if you like. We're going to retest. So from table, start to step forward into a forward bend, starting there. Maybe give your hair a shake. Good, and then widen out your feet a little bit. Take your second and third toes to about 11 and 1 on the clock. And then just a couple of nice easy bends here. So start to bend your knees, lift your chest, come into your squat, come to that first point of resistance, and then straighten your legs out. And just notice if anything is different. Notice if the tension has changed, shifted, moved, gone away, gotten worse, whatever you notice there. And then the next time that you come down into the squat, you're gonna hold the squat. If you're comfortable without using the block, that's fine. If you need the block, that's fine too. It's not a magic wand. It's just here to maybe help a little bit. And then find yourself in your malasana, your squat position. And then just back where we were, again, you're not prying anything open necessarily. We're just noticing any changes to the tissues. Just close your eyes there and notice if the tension is a little bit different. If anything is shifted or changed, maybe lift your hips up a few more times. Just kind of noticing whether it feels like things are a little more lubricated, maybe a little bit more nourished, supplied with oxygen. And then pause there again in your squat. Just take a moment there to breathe. Nice, exhale. Awesome. Then bring your hands back, come to sit. Bring your palms to touch in front of your heart. Slight bow to yourself, a gesture of gratitude for taking the time to work through the hips and the ankles to really restore some of that resilience that can be kind of lost when we spend so much time sitting in chairs as opposed to on the floor or in a squat. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice today. I hope it was helpful. Namaste. Thank you all.
Mhm.